Hello, everybody, and welcome into Senior Living Live. My name is Melissa. Thank you so much for being with us. Our webinar today is called Preventing Falls for Seniors. Daniel Quirk is our guest presenter from Fox Rehabilitation. He's got some excellent tips if you or a senior loved one, wants to prevent this problem from falls, which can lead to obviously other health issues. Our webinar should last about an hour. We encourage you to be a part of the conversation. And in order to do that, just remember all lines are muted, video, audio muted, but you can scroll down to the bottom of your screen where it says Q&A, type out your questions there, and I am happy to read those to Daniel at the end of his presentation. And just remember, you can always remain anonymous. Daniel, it is so good to see you again. Welcome to Senior Living Live. Thanks for being with us. The webinar is all yours.
Great. Thanks, Melissa, for the intro, and I'm happy to be here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have a visual to follow along as we chat. So we'll get that started. And then, I'm excited to talk about fall risk reduction and everything that I've gotten to learn over my years as a physical therapist working with older adults. I've been at this about 10 years and my patients have always been, in that later stages of life, and falls is very central to almost every patient that I've worked with over the past 10 years. So again, the title of today's talk is about fall risk, and it's really top 7 fall risk factors as we age. And we're going to go through some of those. We're going to go through what we can do about it, and hopefully people can walk away with some information for themselves, for loved ones, and we can all kind of leave here with some actionable items that will help reduce fall risk as we age. So I use this often, and I'm going to start with these two lovely ladies. So the picture here is not true to the story, but the names are. So I use the picture to represent Alice and Arlene. So those are the names of my two grandmothers who unfortunately had passed years ago when I was young. But I use this as a way to set the tone and the why behind why I am passionate about fall risk reduction and helping older adults. Both Alice and Arlene were amazing humans, very influential in my life. And they're within the last year or two of their lives, they were inflicted with a lot of the ailments that occur commonly as we age. And one of those was falls and balance and mobility issues, all kind of related. So it really was something intimately, it's kind of a, if I knew then what I know now situation, maybe I could have helped with some of the strategies we're going to talk about today. But very much the driving passion behind why I care so much about this topic. And, we'll kind of loop them into the conversation as we go. So there's Alice and Arlene. So just a little about Fox. You can see I'm wearing my orange. We love orange and we love energy behind this mission of believing in the strength of people, and really trying to help our patients. You can see in the last sentence here, achieve what they once thought impossible, optimal function to rehabilitate their lives. So we focus on physical, occupational, and speech therapy for older adults. We have a great partnership with the Arbor Company and a lot of their senior living communities. And through that partnership and through what we do out in people's private homes as well, we really focus. Like I said, almost every one of our patients has fall risk reduction, some aspect of it in their plan of care. So it's what we do all day, every day. So we're gonna focus on 3 questions, and we'll use this visual to bring us back to topic as we go. But really, we're gonna define what the problem is, talk a little about why falls are so prevalent, a little bit about risk factors, but mostly about action, about what we can do. Leaving today ourselves, really no matter what age you are, you can start preparing and preparing your body and your environment for this sort of thing. But secondarily, if it's a loved one, we can leave here with data, information that, we can help encourage them. I know, I have aging parents myself, and we'll speak maybe a little bit more about that. But, you have to come to these folks that we're trying to help with a lot of information about how to do things the right way. Because there's a lot of information out there, but we want to make sure we're focusing on the right things. And I've been able to do that somewhat successfully with my parents, but always a work in progress. So hopefully it can give some information to help you all with those conversations. So we'll start with what is the problem. Let's define what we're really speaking about. So The unfortunate statistics show that Alice and Arlene, so, if we're picturing the both of them in the later stages of their life, over 80 years old, statistics show that one of them will fall within this calendar year. So, that it really shows that over the age of 65, about one in every three older adults experience a fall. When you get to 80 plus, that unfortunately goes to one in every two. So when I'm doing this presentation or something similar in person, we can kind of look to our left and right if we're over the age of 65, and one of those three people unfortunately will experience a fall. So it's pretty staggering. And that, of course, in a very vibrant, I have young kids, they fall all the time, they get right back up and they get back to running. So it depends on where you're at in the stage of your life, whether or not falls is a significant factor. But this shows a little bit of why older adults struggle to regain function after falls. So in this age group, 65 plus, about 40% of hospitalizations are due to falls. So kind of the worst, or well, maybe not the worst, but one of the worst outcomes of a fall would be, to be so disabled or hurt, injured, that you have to go to the hospital. So about 40% of these are due to falls, as I've said. So, the average length of stay for these hospitalizations is about 12 days. And that much of immobility, that much of a hit on your function can lead to up to 60% of your muscle mass loss. Especially if you're not prepared or you're not doing exercise while you're there, which when you're hospitalized, you rarely are doing enough to keep your muscle mass. So that can really lead to a slippery slope with this stuff. So this visual here, I think it just helps picture what that may look like. So this is actually what we call a cross section of someone's thigh. So you can see that white circle in the middle, that's their femur bone or their thigh bone. And around there, you can see two differences. In patient A, a lot of dark material, and that's muscle mass. In patient B, you see a lot more white, which I think we could all guess is kind of fat deposits and not muscle mass. We'll just say that it's everything else. So you can see here what losing 60% of your muscle mass may look like. It's obvious to me at least, that patient B is going to have a lot harder time getting out of a chair successfully, walking to the bathroom successfully and staying on their feet. And if they trip, patient A is going to have a lot easier time catching their balance than patient B. So this is what can happen. That's why we try to be proactive as possible and avoiding even that first fall, because if that leads to hospitalization, on average, this is what happens. And then we're really working to get that back over time. So, that's really where rehabilitation comes in. But today we're going to talk hopefully even more about prevention. So again, this is a visual that just shows us that slippery slope and how quickly we can lose our vigor with age. This is kind of the average. I think, when we're 75 plus years old and we have a fall, we're 4 to 5 times more likely to lose our independence because we're already kind of going down. We'll talk a little about normal muscle loss over age. So, when we have a fall and we're in the hospital, of course, that's accelerating these things. So, ideally this curve, it's hard to show, but I mean, personally for my life, I want it to go straight across and then kind of, fall down to the end. So stay in that fun and function range, really until my time's up. So, unfortunately we spend a lot of time in frailty and failure, really having trouble functioning in day to day. And that's where, some of these proactive measures hopefully can keep us to the left-hand side of this curve and keep our vigor and function pretty high. So the next piece, like I said, we're going to roll through some risk factors. So this will define things you should be looking out for. But again, we're going to move pretty quickly to action and spend the remainder of the talk on that. So what are the top 7 fall risks as we age? So number 1, fear of falling. We'll talk about each of these in greater depth. So number 2 is leg strength. Number 3, inner ear function, or you might hear it called vestibular function. Number 4, vision. Number 5, proprioception. And that means a little bit different than balance, but it's basically just a fancy word for our ability to balance and move our body in a certain way. Number 6 is medications. And number 7 is environment or home safety. And then by no means is this in order of importance. This is just the order we're talking about them. Depending on individual people, some of these may be more of a focus than others. depending on what people have going on. So, all right, I promised we'd get quickly to action. So we will spend the next 10 to 15 minutes really rolling through what sort of an action can we take with each of those individual fall risk factors that hopefully will lead us at a lower fall risk. Because this is a very, very wise fellow here said, Henry Ford said, vision without execution is just hallucination. So if we know what to do and we don't do it, then we're just dreaming, pretty much is what how I interpret that great quote. So the first is fear of falling. So this is really a risk factor that leads to decreased physical activity and decreased strength, endurance, flexibility. So it's really a factor that when people age, whether they've had an injury or some sort of a setback, and they don't feel themselves, their balance doesn't feel super strong, they tend to subtract movement and activities from their life. They tend to sit more, or kind of find their favorite chair, make it really easy to get to and from the things, maybe the kitchen and bathroom that they need to get to. So that fear in its own right leads to a decreased physical activity. It leads to just kind of being a little hesitant to move the way our bodies are meant to. And the solution here is really challenging yourself in a controlled environment. So that's when a lot of these, of course, I'm a physical therapist, so I want to sell the value of what we do, and but doing a lot of these in a controlled environment with a very educated and experienced clinician, whether that's a physical therapist or a personal trainer that works with older folks, or anywhere in between there. We want to do these. A lot of this, the solutions are challenging, so we want to do them with someone that's professional and can kind of guide you to it, and then set you up for how to do it safely on your own moving forward. But you want to challenge yourself. So this is like kind of walking into the fear, right? I think about this, I think at any stage of life, where getting out of our comfort zone is really where we make progress, right? So the same goes for this. We have to challenge ourselves in a controlled environment. We have to respect the fear. It's normal, but we can't let it control life. We can't let fear of falling pull us back from different activities, because if you think back to that visual of the two different people with, one with a lot of muscle and one with about 60% less, that can also happen, not just from a hospital stay. It might take a little longer, but if you pull back your activity by 50% because you're fearful of falling, over time, your muscles are gonna really shrink. They're gonna become smaller. Those fat deposits are gonna increase. So I think we've all experienced that during time of immobility in our life. But the next one is, right along those lines, leg strength. So if you do nothing to prevent it, just the aging process, older adults will lose 5% of their muscle mass and strength every decade after 30. So I'm in that age group. I'm assuming the majority of the folks here on this webinar are probably in the after 30 years old group. So you think about that. If we just kind of go about life without any intentionality behind keeping strength, we'll lose about 5% every decade. So that certainly adds up. And what can we do about that? It's really, there's all sorts of research into the proper, we call it dosage of exercise to prevent all strength, not just leg strength, but three times a week of moderate intensity, full body strength training may not prevent all of that. You're not going to be, even if you do all the things right, you may not be as strong as when you're 90 as you are when you're 30. I'm not naive to think that is possible, but there's a lot of older folks who keep this sort of a regimen up and do it at a good intensity that maintain a lot of strength, and certainly enough to prevent falls or many falls, or even allow you to recover better if you do have a fall. Because everybody, I fall down sometimes, I trip over things, but I bounce back up because age, but also maintaining a level of physical fitness. So the key here is the intensity. We've all seen pictures, or maybe we went to like a aerobics class and we're maybe sitting, we've got the cute little pink dumbbells, 1 or 2 pounds, and not leaving there feeling like we really got a good workout. So what we emphasize as therapists and at Fox is that the intensity is key. What moderate intensity means is it should feel, out of a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is you're just resting and 10 is the hardest thing you can do, probably at a 5 or 6, somewhere around a 5 or 6 out of 10 effort. Your last couple, if we're doing like a sit to stand and we're working our leg strength, or a squat is similar. Those last 1 to 2 repetitions, that 9th, that 10th, that 11th repetition should feel pretty hard, right? The first and second one might feel on the easier side, but it should get hard as we go. And that's something that takes time to adapt. Your first couple of times, your muscles might be a little sore, totally normal things. But again, back to what I was saying a few minutes ago, having a trained professional, physical therapist, occupational therapist, maybe a personal trainer, as I mentioned, or exercise physiologist, those are all terms of things, folks that might be able to help, that understands aging adults is really where you want to start with a lot of this stuff. So the next one, shifting gears a little to a little bit of a different kind of take on fall risk reduction, is really paying attention to our inner ear, or again, the vestibular system. So this is something, if you haven't been through this sort of education, you might think, well, what does my ear have to do with my balance? And that would be a very fair question. But there's certain things, the vestibular system is in your ear, but it doesn't really contribute. It's not the part of your ear that leads to hearing and those sort of things. It's really has to do with communication of your balance, basically from your body to your brain. So if you've ever and it's hard if you're ever walking and you turn your head side to side, maybe you're at a shopping mall and you're looking at different stores and you feel a little out of sorts, that is that means you're challenging your vestibular system. So regular complaints of dizziness, room spinning, anything like that. Sometimes even when people go from laying down to sitting up and they get a little woozy, sometimes that's a blood pressure issue, but a lot of times it's actually stemming from issues with their vestibular system. So good news is there's things you can do. It's kind of like a muscle in a way, that if you do the proper type of exercise, you can actually make your vestibular system stronger. So even myself personally, I work on really lightweight kind of balance exercises, but moving my head, standing on uneven surfaces, things like that can help train your vestibular system to work better. So probably something, if you're having significant dizziness or you're falling over because you get so dizzy, definitely want to consult with your physician on those sort of things to make sure, it's not something else medically going on. But if it is narrowed down that it's a vestibular issue, it's certainly there's a lot of special physical therapists that specialize in this sort of thing that are easy to find. The next one is vision. So this one's pretty straightforward. After the age of 40, I'm sure some folks here have experienced, it's normal to have steadily declining vision. So the solution is really, I can't say we have a magic bullet here in therapy to do anything about this, but yearly eye examination and prescription adjustment from optometrists. But I say that, then we'll get to environmental setup also as we get a little further on the chat here, and setting up your environment for things like lighting and clear pathways and things like that can actually make, in times when you have low vision, can help reduce falls. So this is one thing that there's not an exercise for it, as I mentioned, but just making sure you have the right prescription, making sure it's a factor. Making sure you have good lighting, because any of us who have maybe gotten up in the middle of the night in a pitch dark room that's not our own, you're not walking full speed with great balance to the light switch. You're kind of staggering. You're very slow. You're very methodical, kind of intentional about where you're walking. So we've all experienced that. The next one is, the term is proprioception, but I'm going to kind of loop balance into this. Again, it's pretty similar to leg strength. As we age, this declines if we're not kind of doing something about it. But a lot of times it comes along with anything that affects your nervous system. So, as your sensations, sometimes people with diabetes have like, neuropathy, things like that. Their sensation in their feet aren't as strong, so it throws off their balance. That kind of falls into this category. Any neurological conditions like Parkinson's or MS, of course, lead to a lot of challenges with balance. But just generally, as we age, our sensations decrease, our nerve conduction is lesser. So it's just something to keep aware of. And again, it's great that there's a solution to this as well, and it's surprise, back to moderately challenging balance exercises. So this is different from doing your squats and maybe your push-ups and things that are a lot more strength-based, or maybe seated dumbbell work, something like that. This is kind of, standing on one foot or walking over uneven surfaces, or, walking sideways or backwards, things that challenge your balance to moderate capacity. And you want to spend at least 50 hours of this per year. So we break that down. It's a big number, but it's not that much week to week. But again, back to the original message of having someone who's educated come out and help you set up the program is my primary advice. But then keeping that up over time is definitely something that will help this proprioception and balance. And you really actually, if it's too easy, this is another thing, again, to the pink dumbbell example, that, if it's too easy, it's not going to do a whole lot. So this is something that you should be successful about 75% of the time. So, you should be losing your balance and wavering and having to kind of grab on, maybe using a countertop or a grab bar or a railing, something like that, that's close by, that when you challenge yourself, you can grab on if you need it. So, the next one, and then we're coming towards the last few risk factors here, but medication. So many older adults over the age of 65 have multiple medications. I've treated hundreds, if not thousands, of patients in my career, and I don't think I've ever encountered one that wasn't on at least one medication, which is kind of wild. But the research shows that using 4 or more medications is itself a risk for falls. So it actually doubles the risk for falls, and that's kind of wild to think about, right? Because we're taking medications to hopefully be healthier, but when you get over 4, you're kind of just working the next medications to fix a side effect of a previous one, and you get into this this situation where it may be necessary for health, and that's more on the your physician team than myself, of course. But especially these medications for sleep, anxiety, blood pressure, and depression, these are the ones that really increase our risk of falls. So solution here is really to review medications yearly, or really at every visit with your physician and pharmacist. The one thing that our medical system, I think, does a really good job at is identifying a problem and medicating it quickly, and that's great. What they maybe, some great physicians may, but a lot of them don't look at, okay, when can we pull back on a medication? When has that problem gone away? And it just becomes an additive thing that we're adding medications and side effects. And that, when we're speaking about fall risk, can really affect our ability to keep it up and affect our ability to do all those things I said previously. If we're on a lot of medications, we may not have the energy to exercise, or we may not feel great when we're doing those balance exercises. So definitely something to review. Make sure everything is intentional here. Everything is necessary. By no means do I advocate going off of any medications. It's just a conversation for your physician. And actually pharmacists are willing and able to have that conversation as well. So the last one we're going to speak about, this would be number 7, is environment or home safety. So I mentioned earlier that this is not order of importance here. This is certainly not the least important, because it's last a lot of times in a lot of setups and environments. This is the highest of importance, and it's really a lot of our focus as a physical or occupational therapist going into a home. A lot of time spent is on environmental or home safety. So things, I mentioned this a little in the vision part, but poor lighting, clutter, lack of grab bars, uneven flooring, all of these are risks for falls, as we can imagine. So I put here as a solution, we have great occupational therapists. Their brain works a little different than physical, and they have a lot of training and understanding of home setup and home safety. So really any skilled clinician can help you with this, but they're really highly skilled here. And that will help just identify things that you may be able to modify in your loved one's home environment that can help reduce the risk of falls. Another thing here, of course, through our partnership with the Arbor Company, and they have great really well thought out senior living communities. That's certainly a great option to look at. And what I always encourage patients to do that I see in their home is, start to look at those options before it's needed or necessary or too late. When you really need it, sometimes you haven't looked at all your options, and it can lead to stress. It can lead to, toughness with figuring that out. So look ahead of time, take a look at where you need to be, look at independent living communities, or, a lot of the over 55 type setups that can then transition into senior living. So yeah, you'd be amazed with how well thought out these sorts of senior living communities are about setup and bathroom setup, lighting. Everything's very intentional with how they're set up to help almost eliminate this environmental or home safety aspect of fall risk. So that's another recommendation there. So as we kind of come to a close here, then we'll go to Q&A. I bring it back to Alice and Arlene. So, I've been talking about this stuff, like I said, for about 10 years. And, I've used these two in many a conversation. And, it's interesting now. And I said this a little to Melissa in the intro video that we shot. But, one of the greatest success stories that I've seen with my time with Fox has been recent. And it's actually my mom. So she went through she had a fall in the middle of the night, and then ended up actually having just some illness that led to her becoming weaker and weaker. And she had the fear of falling and stopped moving so much, and her muscles got weaker, and all of these things started to happen, right? And she's so close to me, and it's hard to do anything about it. But when the time was right, we got her set up with a Fox physical therapist, a great clinician. Came out 3 times a week, spent an hour with her one-on-one each of those sessions. And over the course of 3 to 4 months, got her to a place where, she was walking around, grabbing furniture, really looking unsteady. We were trying to, get a walker involved potentially. But, after those 3 to 4 months, she was walking with a cane. And now, just about 2 weeks ago, she was with me, and I have young 5-year-old twins and a dog, and she was out in the yard running around with them and playing games, and very vibrant, very vigorous. So, it's just that success story hit really close to home. So, we use Alice and Arlene here, but, it's kind of a success story that I'd say we could have helped them in their day, but, we're able to execute upon that with another loved one. So this stuff's really powerful. It's really important. And it's really, it's really doable. It's not rocket science. It's just getting moving, doing the right type of exercise in a safe manner, looking at your environment and your health and your medications, and just making sure we're doing everything we can. So, and this is of course Alice and Arlene after therapy. So they really they whipped into shape. So that's really great. But thank you for your time. I appreciate everyone being here. I'm gonna flip it back to Melissa to start the question and answer section here. But I really appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah. Great presentation so far, Daniel. And I know this is the best part of these presentations is our viewers get a chance to talk to you and really pick your brain. And I love the review of your mother. It doesn't get much better than that. 5 stars, yes. 10 out of 10 would do it again. So this is a really good time to get your questions in to Daniel. You can utilize the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Type your questions there, and I will be happy to read them to him. We did have a question that came in prior to the webinar, so let's go ahead and get to that. Hi, my husband has dementia and Parkinson's. They all blossomed after he had a stroke. His stroke was a vascular event. My husband walks stooped over very slowly, somewhat shuffling, especially his left foot due to the stroke. As he walks, he constantly reaches for surfaces to hold on to, even not safe surfaces, such as surfaces that are too low and make him stoop even further and put him at a greater risk of losing balance and falling. The question, he says he needs to hold on to something, even when he is only taking 2 or 3 steps. My question is, does he actually need to hold on to something, or is his brain telling him a lie? And there's a couple more questions on the back end. Go ahead.
Okay, so that's a great question, and something as you go through describing your husband, that it paints a picture of a very very common patient presentation that we work with a lot. So, a lot of things, multiple things going on between the stroke and the dementia and the posture and the balance. All of those are very common after those sort of things happen. So, but I would say, I don't think his brain is telling him a lie. that he needs to hold on to something, it's probably that the stroke and the various things that have happened since then have led to that kind of that fear of falling. I would think that is leading to wanting to hold on to something all the time. It gets tough with that forward bent posture. Really prescribing the right assistive device becomes a challenging thing, but that's where I would really recommend to our point here today. Of course, a physical therapist can that is in the world of home care, or what we do with Fox is kind of an outpatient model in the home. Having somebody come out, take a look, really look at all of the different factors, the dementia side of things, how much he can retain as far as education goes, and then maybe an assistive device, which that world has really advanced over the years, and you can adjust that to the proper height, hopefully to get him maybe standing a little more upright, because if we're reaching for countertops of various sizes, that certainly is something I would be concerned about, and want to try to intervene on and change. And I know dementia is a challenging disease, and it makes it a little bit harder to gain strength and balance progress, because it's not as straightforward as just telling people, here's what you need to do, and they retain that. A lot of times it takes time, but we at Fox, we actually see very similar outcomes with our patient populations that have cognitive impairments and those that don't. Of course, the path we take is a little more windy and different. It's not as straightforward as just prescribing a program. We have to spend time. Maybe it's a 3, 4, 5 month program where we're demonstrating a lot and we're moving a lot. And sometimes you don't have to call it exercise to get people up and moving. And that's, our therapists are really good at that. I hate to say it, but you trick them in, tricking into exercise and doing movements that they like, or doing activities that they enjoy that actually can translate to strength and balance benefits is what we would do in that situation. So I appreciate the situation you're in. I've seen a lot of patients with similar things going on, and not easy. So I'm sympathetic to your environment, but that having somebody come in and take a look at all of that and try to develop a plan of care would be a great step.
And a couple of other questions that they had that are specific to them, but also could be specific to other people watching. Is it a bad habit to hold on to things? And then, should he try to walk without holding on to things? He does not use a walker yet, so he will be more upright and will be more self-reliant and confident in his own ability to walk.
So I'll say yes to the first side of the question. I think it's always a bad idea to rely on furniture or unpredictable things to grab onto. I think it many times can lead to more falls than just trying to walk without it, because especially then you add in, we talked about vision, things like that, lighting. You reach for something that you think is going to be there and you don't, and you actually throw yourself off balance. So there's all sorts of things that can go wrong there. So I would definitely recommend getting away from that as much as possible. But then the second question, I want to say yes, because I always encourage people to walk without, the least restrictive device is what we always say, so if they can walk with a cane and don't have to go to a walker, I want to do that all day. If they can walk safely without a cane, that's the best. But, there's also the safety factor, which we have to prescribe the right things. So it'd be hard for me to make a specific recommendation based off of not having seen your loved one, but I would say the least restrictive assistive device that he can be safe with is what I would recommend. But it'd be hard without doing specific tests and specific gait training to be able to make a really specific recommendation there.
Yeah, and kudos to you for really wanting to help your spouse out in the best way that you can. So thank you for that question. It was very good. Here's one from Anonymous. Do you like the 60 up or 60 UP in-home balance boards for a 92-year-old healthy man? What mobility improving exercises do you recommend?
So can you, I might need to look that up. I don't think I'm familiar with that specific. 60 up?
60 UP, 60 up is what it looks like.
Okay. 60 up balance. So I'm not familiar with that specific piece of equipment. So I'm actually on the fly gonna look it up. I think so I'm looking at it now. It's a device that gives you, it looks like it's something that gives you what we call perturbation, which is kind of unpredictable movement side to side or front to back. It kind of throws your balance off and you have to catch it yourself. So back to what I was speaking about with the balance training, I think it looks like something that could be really effective in getting to that where you want moderate intensity, right? We spoke about that. So, building up an hour or two a week of that balance training till we get to that 50 is, that could be a tool to help you get there in a safe way. Cause I saw it has, handles to hold on to as well, which is key. So anything that challenges your balance to where you feel pretty wobbly, you feel like you could lose your balance, you could not, and doing that, repeatedly is really where that's the magic in balance training. So I really think that would be an effective piece. And then other ideas, it depends on where the level of function is starting, but a relatively healthy older adult that, is ambulatory without an assistive device, I would work on all sorts of things like, walking outside on uneven surfaces, maybe up hills. You can turn your head as you're walking to get some of that vestibular system in place. I use a lot of the blue balance pad. I'll carry that around in my trunk to patients and bring them to their homes. And, you can do, standing marches on a really cushy surface like that. That makes it really hard to keep your balance. And allows you to do it near a counter or something you can grab onto if you lose your balance. Those sort of things are great. I use a lot of backwards walking, sideways walking, where we spend so much of our life kind of moving in the forward plane that, challenge yourself sideways and going backwards is a great idea. And then the last thing I'd say is, one thing that we didn't talk about specifically in the presentation today, but for younger folks that I work with, and younger is probably in the 65 to 80, or anybody that can do this. Actually, I shouldn't limit it to age. Working on what we call power, which is a little different than strength. Your ability to jump, run, skip, things like that are kind of quick movements. That declines really sharply as we age. And that's, if you think about it, when you're losing your balance, whether you trip over something or whatever happens, you have to react quick. You're not reacting slowly to that. Your body moves really quickly to catch your balance. And if we lose that ability over our years of aging, then that's something that can lead to increased falls. So yeah, just small little jumps at a kitchen counter, or if you haven't run in years, in a safe way that if you're cleared by your physician from a cardiovascular side of things, using those quick movements is something that I really advocate for because it keeps those muscles sharp.
Wonderful. From Anonymous, any thoughts, recommendations on fitness trackers for middle age and more seniors? Thanks.
I love it. I mean, I wear my Apple Watch here every day. It's something that helps me keep on track. I log my workouts in the kind of the Apple Health application that's tied to my Apple Watch. I wear a chest strap for if I really want to hone in on my heart rate that syncs to my phone. So I'm a big fan of those sort of things. I have daily kind of output goals as far as how much exercise to do and steps and little things like that I think more than anything just helps you keep on track, helps you set goals. So much of fitness at whatever age you're at is about, looking at assessing where you are today, looking where you want to be in 6 months, a year, 2 years. And then just trying to, do things that will move you towards that goal. So, if you're feeling out of breath when you're walking up a hill and you say, oh, I need to get in better cardiovascular shape. Well, let's look at your step count. Maybe average 3,000 a day now. Let's set that at 6,000 and, try to accomplish that every day, or get up to 10,000, depending on your activity levels, little things like that. Or, if you're active and you can, you're doing push-ups and squats, even without weight, just, hey, if you could do 3 today, let's look at what would it take to get to 10. And that will just make data. If you could do, 10 squats and 10 push-ups, just walking up your stairs and doing things you do every day is going to feel that much easier because you built a reserve of strength and endurance in your body. So back to the original question, I think, wearables and trackers do a great job to help you stay on track with all that stuff.
Question here from Carol. Why is a cane considered a step up from a walker? I like that.
That's a good question. Again, it's really, it depends on what you need at any stage of your mobility. But, it's just, to me, it is less, anything that gets you closer to natural walking to me is ideal. So when you have a cane, at least you're still swinging one arm. You tend to have faster gait speed. You tend to have a more normal step length, and all those things. When you get to a walker and you limit, especially if you have both hands attached, so much of walking and gait is this reciprocal movement, right? There's a lot of research into maintaining mobility. That reciprocal arm swing and leg movement is the way kind of the body is meant to walk, right? So if you take that away with a walker, you stop using that rotation as much, and you tend to walk just very straightforward. And a lot of times that will limit gait speed. And gait speed is one thing that we track over the age, over the lifespan for older adults, and it's very predictive of fall risk, hospitalization, really lifespan. If you could keep your gait speed at what is considered normal levels for your age group, that's a really good indicator of good health. And so anything I can do to prescribe or to get faster gait speed in a safe way, to me, is a win. So that's a lot of what I would say as far as the advantages of a cane over a walker.
Yeah. That was a fantastic question, Carol. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
We have a little less than 20 minutes remaining in the webinar. This is a really good time to get your questions into Daniel. Next question. My mom fell in October, had a fracture on L2. We have been working with PT since then. She still holds on to furniture and walks with baby steps. PT discharged her last week and said it was in her head because she can do the exercises in therapy. She says she is afraid of falling. Any suggestions on next steps?
Wow, that's a good question. And definitely something that if she doesn't continue with that movement, it will definitely be something that will be hard to keep up any gains that have been made. That statement that in her head is maybe a little harsh of a way to put it, but a lot of times it does, our confidence and fear of falling, as I alluded to, does limit our mobility. So when I am kind of presented with that situation with a patient, I do the best I can to get them out of their comfort zone. If their normal walk is around their house at a certain speed, I'm constantly getting them, hey, let's walk a little faster. Let's push the pace. I'm right here. I'm not going to let you fall. Things like that I do during the course of therapy to help try to get people out of their comfort zone. But so that's what I would say is, trying to do things that will get your loved one out of their comfort zone in a safe way is the way to overcome a lot of those that fear. But gosh, I get it. You fall and you break a vertebrae in your spine. It's going to be hard to get that confidence back. So it does take time. But my biggest recommendation would be just to keep moving as much as possible. Get as many steps in during the day. Try to encourage them to go faster and pick up the pace a little bit. And over time, I think that will lead to more confidence. If that fracture's healed and there's not a significant pain limitation, building as much strength as possible is only going to help with that confidence. So, a good strength training program, there's a lot of resources. You have to make sure it's safe, but like YouTube and online, there's a lot of people putting out great content with older adult exercise classes that are safe for, back injuries. You could probably just, look that up specifically, and I bet you find some pretty good content. So there's a lot out there. I'd encourage you to keep going. And then if progress slows down or reverses, really advocating to get therapy started again. That's the thing. If they're in the Medicare age, you don't need to wait until a fall happens to get therapy, especially the way we do it in an outpatient setting. Even though we go into the home, we're able to be proactive. So I would really look to find, proactive clinicians. Sometimes even, I said it a few times, like personal trainers. You can look online in your area and see if there's people that focus on older adults. A lot of them will come to the home, and they make the world of difference when you find a good one. So all of those are things I would explore.
A great option. And Diana, just to let you know, and somebody who's worked with young athletes in the 18 to 25 year old range at the highest level, one of those individuals gets an ACL tear, they tear their MCL or something, they also hesitate when they first go back maybe to the basketball
Yeah,
court. And I've seen it over and over and over. That's human nature. So that no matter what age you are, when you have a significant injury like that, as Daniel alluded to, it can be very difficult to want to continue to do the things that maybe cause that to begin with, sharp turns or turning or what have you. So very normal
absolutely.
for your mother for sure. It's just going to take a lot of encouragement, as Daniel mentioned as well. So question from Anonymous, can you suggest a few balance exercises that I can use at home and frequency? Also, how do you measure level of strength, i.e. 20 push-ups?
Okay, so to start the first one, so balance, I think I spoke a little about that in a previous question, but you can really like the side to side movement, walking sideways, walking backwards, walking on your heels, walking on your toes, things like that that make it harder than normal to balance are great options. Like I said, I use they're called AirX pads. They're just thin blue pads that they're very uneven, so you can use those to kind of simulate uneven surfaces. All of those are balance exercises that I advocate for. And then again, the jumping, the running, little quick movements, side to side, jump, little bunny hops are things that I advocate to get that power and that movement, and that in turn is a balance exercise. The second one, to evaluate your level of strength, that's a great question. As far as, there's a lot of different things that you can look at as standards, but really one of the biggest ones that we use to test is what we call a 5-time sit to stand. So it's exactly what it sounds like. We ask patients to actually, if they can, without using their arms, cross their arms across their chest, stand up, sit down 5 times fast, as fast as they can. They have to go all the way up and all the way down, and you just time it from when they stand the first time, but when they start moving, to when they sit after that 5th repetition. And if that's less than about 12 seconds, give or take, that's typically a pretty good score. So if you could do that, your lower extremity or your full body strength is in a pretty good space. Then you can look at more advanced things from there. But that's like a baseline, easy one to explain here, that if that takes you 30, 35 seconds, or if you have to use your arms, it's a good indication that your strength is a little behind where it should be for your age group. So that's one quick, easy, and a lot of research behind it that can help you with that.
Oh, as we start to wind down, any final thoughts, parting thoughts for you, Daniel?
I think we hit on most of it. I would just advocate, whether you're here, all of us, no matter what age group we're in, or if we have loved ones that are aging, we're all aging in some capacity. So, just keeping moving, keeping strength and balance are things that, you don't realize it, but it's so much harder to regain than it is just to consistently stay on top of. And I know that's easy to say, things happen, injuries happen, life happens, but just moving every day, using your step counter if you have one, or just kind of keeping strength standards that you retest over the years. I have also, of course, you could tell I kind of geek out on this stuff, but I have a list of things that I want to be able to do when I'm 100 years old. Pick up a grandkid from the floor, a great grandkid from the floor, or walk up a flight of stairs with groceries, little things that I just want to be able to do. So I use weights and tests throughout the course of my years here at a younger age to just make sure I can do it now, and I'll test it every year. And then, if a year comes when I'm unable to accomplish it, I know, hey, that's something I really need to fix. And those are sort of things that, just look ahead 10, 20, 30 years, depending on where you're at, what you want to accomplish, and then just reverse engineer that into what you need to do today to keep that strength to do that at that age. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, you can always play catch up. It's never too late to get started, right?
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. Yep.
I love it. I love it. You've been fantastic. Let me just verify there are no more questions in the chat box. Actually, we do have one more that came in from Bonnie. Does proper hydration play a part in balance?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think proper hydration, a muscle is 70% water. So if you're dehydrated, that is, going to lead to an inability to use your muscles to their greatest capacity. So even this, extremely strong people that become dehydrated aren't able to really fire their muscles right. And that's most of what balance is quick movements of muscles to catch yourself and to move around. So, definitely keep it on top of hydration. 2-3 liters a day is typically what I recommend. It depends on body weight and things like that, but and one thing that I think there's been a lot of research lately on is the importance of electrolytes. So there's all sorts of products out there. I myself use one that's adds in kind of salt and potassium and magnesium in a powder form. You just dump it in your water, shake it up. They taste good. They have flavor to them, but it increases the ability for your body to use that hydration, because it's more than just water. You need all those sort of nutrients. So the best thing you could do is kind of once a day add in a little electrolyte supplementation, but just making sure you're getting water in throughout the day as well is going to help you with your strength and your balance for sure.
Awesome tips. And that's why we had you here. Thank you, Daniel. We appreciate you so much for being with us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is fun stuff to talk about, and I hope people have some things they can walk away with and knowledge to use.
Absolutely. And come back anytime. And we also thank you not only for being here, but we thank you and Fox Rehabilitation for all that you do to keep our seniors mobile. So thank you so much. And once again, for our viewers, just want to remind you that starting tomorrow, you're going to get a link to this webinar with Daniel, to the email you used to RSVP for today's webinar. And also we'll make sure we get all those links sent to some exercises that you can pull up online that may help you or a loved one. Also, feel free to stop over at our website, www.seniorlivinglive.com. All of our videos are all about senior living. And the best part, guys, it is all free. Thank you so much for being a part of Senior Living Live and for being a part of the conversation. Have a great day, everybody.